Hello, everybody. This is Zach Said It Again. I'm your host, Zach Cooley, and it is an honor for me to be here with very talented actor, writer, director, and my new friend, Mr. Christopher Parks. Uh, Chris, it was great to meet you last night.
You
Um,
too. You too. What a fun time.
it was an extraordinary performance of Journey to Oz, which I discovered in doing a tiny bit of research that you actually wrote and directed. Is that true?
That is true. I originally wrote it for Florida Repertory Theater,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a commission by them. My friend Jason Parrish commissioned it. He directed the original production. He's a brilliant, brilliant director and great friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, the Children's Theater of Charlotte were looking to do a project with me, and I presented them that script, and they said, "Hey, we would like to do our own production, but we'd like for you to direct it." And I was like, "Sure, that sounds great." So I developed the piece further with them, and now it's been touring on and off for about 10 years.
And how were we lucky enough to get you? How did you get in touch with the people here in Wytheville and such?
That's a great question. We have a booking agent. Her name is Robin Klinger. Robin Klinger Entertainment. She's a
Mm.
brilliant, brilliant, wonderful friend, like family, and she's in charge of booking all of our experiential shows. So I don't know how she gets in touch with everyone, but she knows everyone. She knows everybody who owns a performing arts center, and she's constantly talking about creating different programming with folks. And in particular, my shows that I create are all TYA, Theater for Young Audiences. So when people have a family series, they reach out to Robin. She shows them some of the shows that she has on her roster, and then I'm blessed enough to go all over this country and meet all sorts of wonderful people like you. Now, what was brilliant about yesterday is that it felt like everybody knew each other that was in the audience. Like, it was like, let's get together the families of Wytheville and have them hang out with these people who come on in and do this show. And it's not just a play that we're doing, but it's something where the audience is with us, participating with us, playing with us. So, what a perfect night.
And you're absolutely right. Our town has 8,000 people in it. We do know everybody does know everybody pretty much. And the most wonderful thing, as a father myself, you're a father as well, there is nothing more joyous than bringing smiles to the faces of children. And
Yeah, yeah.
seeing you guys out there before the show, talking to the kids and interacting with them, and those kids were having an absolute ball. I really appreciated in your script, now that I know that it's yours, how you allowed for the kids and the people you brought up on stage to help tell the story. They were as much a part of that story as you and the three other people that were up on stage with you. Massively talented, all four of you, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. And that's the work we do. We're called the Experiential Theater Company, and the
Uh-huh.
idea is that an audience comes to the show, and they think they're there to see a play, and they find out really quickly they're there to be in a play with us, to help us create the performance. And it's intended to be safe. It's intended to be an opportunity for people who want to participate to do so, but also a circumstance where everyone doesn't have to participate if they don't want to. You can participate to whatever degree you feel comfortable with, because the irony of my life is, even though the name of my company is the Experiential Theater Company, is that I actually don't really like interactive theater. I'm usually really turned off by it. But this is a style of interaction that I've been developing with friends for almost 20 years now. And the whole idea is that we have prompts where we invite folks to speak, to play different characters, to participate as large groups or as individual characters. And if someone turns their head and says nope, or just says, do I have to, or any of that, the answer is always no. It's, if you want to play, you can play, and if you don't, it's totally fine as well. And also, whatever you say is going to be fine. If kids know the show, great. If kids don't know the show, if they don't know the book, that's okay. We have some obscure stories that we tell.
Yeah.
One of which is a West African piece, which nobody knows the story of that, but they learn to know the story as we are telling it, and so the information they need is baked into the narration. And then as we're going along, if they're paying attention, they'll respond specifically to certain characters' names or certain places. And if they don't know, they get a sense of what the world is like. They get a sense of there's a conflict going on. They're involved in that conflict. They get a sense of what their role is as how it relates to that conflict, and then they're responding on that level as well. So we try to be as universal as possible with the wants and needs and hopes of our characters, and then get specific in the narration and the description so everyone can appreciate the story that we're telling, not to them, but with them.
Absolutely. And our Wytheville group obviously did not disappoint you last night. They were right in
No, not at all. Oh my gosh. We had such great folks.
Yeah. And please come back. I hope you will come back.
Yeah. We've got 4 different shows in our repertoire. So we come back every year for 4 years, and by the time we get to the 5th one, I'm sure we'll have another one in our repertoire. We're constantly developing new work. And we have a partnership with the Children's Theatre of Charlotte, which is not too far from you all.
Right.
So we've been developing work together for the last 7 or 8 years with them, and we've been working with them for the last 12 years.
Well, even if you don't have a new one in your repertoire, by the time it rolls around again, I think people would come back to see Oz again, or that was just something that was like the young girl that was there at the end of the show that we took the picture with last night. Her and her mom, they love anything to do with Wizard of Oz. So, her mother was telling me, that's my friend Crystal Hills and her daughter Abby. They were telling me, we love anything to do with Wizard of Oz, so this was our mommy-daughter night. And
oh, how nice.
And they had such a good time. And, that story, what I loved that you did with the story is that you incorporated L. Frank Baum's life in with where you were in the story, incorporating Ladies' Home Journal. This is what it says to do when you meet a person, when you have a guest coming over. You need to put on makeup. A good healthy layer of makeup is always a good way to show you care. And then you have the kid, it was another friend of mine, his son, his name is Holland Jones. His dad is Dylan. You had Holland paint the witch's face, which was fantastic, and it made that kid's night, because when Dylan came back to speak to me, he said, "Did you see me up there? I painted the witch's face." I said, "Yes, I did see that. You were great, and you made that kid's night by getting him up on stage, And,
I'm so glad.
And
yeah, when I was asked to write this play by, again, my friend Jason, I honestly was not a huge fan of the Oz books.
Right.
Not that I didn't like them, I just didn't know a lot about them. And he was like, "Look, I love Oz. I want you to write me an Oz play." So I was like, "All right, let me do my research." So a dear friend of mine got me a book which was all about how L. Frank Baum and W. W. Denslow, the illustrator,
Mm-hmm.
how they created the stories, and the Industrial Revolution was a huge influence on them. One of the reasons that story came to life is that the way people were thinking about the future and the possibilities of what could happen with machinery is what inspired things like the Tin Man, inspired things like the kind of charlatan character that they were able to create out of that wizard with all of the mechanics and how he could make that giant robot thing come to life. All those different ideas came from what was happening at the time. L. Frank Baum had visited the World's Fair in Chicago in the late 19th century. And so the idea of the moving picture and the electrotachyoscope from the World's Fair, creating like that kind of like illusion that the wizard was all a part of how they created and came up with that story. So I said, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a play where we talk about that all the way throughout? National Scholastic newspaper articles are being read out loud. Different books are being read, and different letters are being read that they wrote. And then as you're telling the story, we say, oh, now I understand why the Cowardly Lion came to life, because
Right.
W. W. Denslow wrote this thing in the newspaper where he said we thought it would be funny to make him the antithesis of what a lion is supposed to be. So thanks for noticing that. Yeah, it's definitely a big part of the conceit of that show.
Yeah, and what I didn't know about the Oz books is there are like 40 of them. I thought there was, one, The Wizard of Oz, and you did allude to some of that, at the end. You said, did Dorothy visit Oz again? Yes, she did, but she did not stay for very long, because
so W. W. Denslow, the illustrator, and L. Frank Baum, the writer, they wrote, I think, 3 Oz books together.
Right.
Then the two of them started to argue, because it became such a worldwide phenomenon, about who really owned the rights to these characters and to this world, because although Baum wrote the story, Denslow not only created the illustrations, but the illustrations and the discussions that they had about the illustrations really helped to feed the creation of the words on the page as well. And so when they find copyright laws not being as clear back then,
right,
when they argued it out in courts, the court determined that both of them owned the rights equally. Mm-hmm. So as a result, more books were written by Baum, and then Baum just hired other artists, and then W. W. Denslow hired some other writers to write some other books that he illustrated. So
right.
There's at least 20 different books that L. Frank Baum and W. W. Denslow are responsible for, and in the extended version of Journey to Oz, because when we tour, we usually keep the show to about an hour, maybe an hour 10, just because in the children's series at these different performing arts centers, they're always looking for the show to be a little shorter because of busing, or just because of their family series, the expectations of the families that are seeing their shows. But there's an extended version of the show, which is an hour and a half. And in that version, there's a lot of the other information from the other books that are used in the story that we just sort of skip over when we're doing the shorter version.
Well, I would very much like to see that as well, because, the Oz franchise, if you will, from the classic film to the other film and musical adaptations, that is a story that goes on and has lived on for 125 years and still continuing to this day. Wicked is one of the most popular series and spin-offs of all time. My daughter and I went to Charlotte last year to see that, and it was fantastic. And normally I wouldn't want I was like, if you have a classic, don't mess with it. But that story really tied in well with that, and how he explained everything on his own. But some things that I must get from you, because I know our time is already getting way too short. The 3 actors that were on stage with you, I must know their names because they are all exuberantly talented.
So, so I played the Tin Man,
Right.
And the Flying Monkey Lawyer,
Mm-hmm.
And then in the role of the Cowardly Lion and Aunt M was Rashim Shabazz, and then in the role of, for briefly, Dorothy in the beginning of the show, but also Glinda, the Good Witch, and also the Emerald City Doorman was Carrie Heffernan. The fourth actor was Christian Williams, and he played the Scarecrow and the Wicked Witch.
And he was very, very good, and they all were very good. But I loved the jokes that Rashim incorporated into the play that only adults would understand, like when the little girl says, "Well, you can come with me. I'll be your bodyguard." He said, "Oh, you're gonna be my bodyguard. I feel like Whitney Houston now," and like I'll never. I've got no courage. I'll never be a hero. Wakanda for never. You know, he incorporates those things that you have to be paying attention if you're going to catch. But I caught him, and I thought he was very clever.
Oh my gosh! Well, Rashim is a dear friend. We work together quite a lot. We collaborate a lot. So he's also a director. He's a writer, a lyricist, and a choreographer, in addition to being a brilliant actor. So having him in that role and having us, letting the play organically, live in a place of, what the moment, asks for, he brings all sorts of new things every single performance, which is great. Rashim also developed and created a show with me called Grimm's Hip Hop Fairy Tales.
Oh, wow.
Me and our friend Ron Lee McGill. And that's another one of the shows that experiential tours. So I told him, I said, we should come back with Grimm's next year. Because Grimm's Hip Hop Fairy Tales is super, super fun. Definitely turns those stories of Cinderella and Rapunzel and Snow White like right on their ear in a good way. Right.
And I have, this is the thing with Wicked too. I have issue with everybody wanting to flip-flop the main stories and the main morals of tales, like, but the evil is not really evil and the good is not really that good. Back when I was growing up, the way I was taught stories, good is good, evil is evil, and right is right and wrong is wrong, and everybody wants to blur those lines. And I like that you kept the moral of the story just as it should be, and you kept the good, the bad, and it was just very cut and dry, which is the way I think a fable should be. I appreciated that fact, and I think that just a basic story without all the complications is sometimes better for children, in my opinion.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, I think we did try to do that, but also just like I do want to point out that we also tried to humanize the witch as well, even though the witch is played by a man and is completely ridiculous. Yeah. But the idea of also saying, hey, listen, Dorothy, you did kill his sister. You did steal his family's object by taking those shoes. You refused to give them back to her. And so you do need to be responsible in some way. And I hope the audience takes that away a little bit, is that it's not just that she's evil. Right. Although you get the idea that she is wicked. Right. And at the end, she's like, look, I'm the wicked witch. Right. I'm not the misunderstood witch. Right. I'm the wicked witch, and I embrace that part of who I am. But at the same time, you also weren't as much a saint as everybody pictures you to be.
Right.
And that's my hope a lot of times when I'm building stories, is that the characters are real characters that have real justification for doing the things that they're doing. She's chasing after Dorothy because she wants from Dorothy what she thinks is rightfully hers, which is those shoes and an apology. And in the end, she doesn't get both of those things, and sometimes she doesn't get either of those things.
Was it in the original text that she would not give them back? Because in the film, she could not give them back. She could not.
No. In the story, she will not give them back.
She could. She just would not. And
yes, but she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand the value of them when she's wearing them.
Right.
And so what happens in the book is Dorothy is imprisoned by the witch, and she does do those terrible things to her friends in that she locks up the lion, and she pulls the stuffing out of the scarecrow, and she dents the Tin Man all up. So she does do those terrible things, but she can't do anything to Dorothy because Dorothy has the magical kiss, which has, is a protective ward around her. However, she does imprison Dorothy in her house, and she keeps coming up with different ways where she could somehow somehow trick her into giving her the shoes. And then the way that the witch ends up dying in the book is that Dorothy is in the witch's kitchen, and then the witch comes up with this thing to make Dorothy slip and lose her shoes, and she loses one of her shoes, and as the witch is coming at her, Dorothy gets angry and just randomly picks up a bucket of water and throws it on her because she thinks that she's not a nice person. She doesn't know it's going to do anything to her, and then sure enough, it's not out of anything except just sort of self-defense, and this is the only weapon I have, and then that's what ends up melting her. So Dorothy ends up melting her by accident.
Especially if you crack the dog on the head, because as a dog lover, that always, that always pulls at your heart, no matter what.
Oh, yes.
What context?
Oh, yes. I added that part in.
You did, okay. You added that in.
I felt like we needed a little bit of something there to give some motivation to Dorothy.
Yeah, absolutely. That would motivate me for sure. So, and I love what you did when you included that, because it is in the text that her shoes are silver.
Yes.
In my favorite version of the Wizard of Oz, which is the Motown version with Diana Ross and Michael Jackson, Diana Ross is wearing silver shoes. The ruby slippers only came with the Technicolor MGM movie. But that it's become such a part of folklore that everybody expects them to be ruby.
That's right. So when we were developing this piece in Fort Myers, Florida, we were doing a workshop. It was a workshop over the course of 4 days, and there were 2 sharing sessions with the general public. And so the first night we did it, we mentioned the silver slippers, and we made a little bit of it, but we didn't do that much. And one of the audience members, this older gentleman, got angry at the end when we were doing the post-show discussion and talking about the piece and whether it was effective or not. People all loved it. It was such a beautiful, wonderful experience. But this guy said, "I didn't know that," and he literally said, "You ruined my childhood." He said that to us. And we were like, well, we didn't write it, and we can't base this on the movie. Because even though the Wizard of Oz books are in the common domain, the books are, but not the movie, and that red slipper thing is from the movie.
Absolutely.
We can parody, but we cannot actually take anything from the movie. So because he said that, between the one sharing workshop date and the other, I had like 3 days to make revisions to the script. So I added that whole thing in there where she mentions, what's on the shoes. It's what's going on with her shoes. It's always the audience that says ruby red slippers.
Right.
We never do. But they always do, and then we're all like, nope, that's not true. Let's check the book. and then we check the book, and then my character always says, "You ruined my childhood," and that's in honor of that guy
Well, very
who said
good.
that to us.
And you start the story in a library, not in Kansas, but in the library where you open the book and close the book. The cyclone is blowing us away. Hurry up, close it. Because the imagination is what takes you to Oz, not magic. The magic is the imagination, and that's what I've always tried to encourage in my daughter, is to have her imagination and to use her mind rather than electronic devices to go to your magical place. And made it very clear that it was about the book, not the film. Now, while we're on that subject, who designed your beautiful set of the library and all the beautiful sets you had?
That's a great question. Well, let me first start by saying, when I was a kid, I loved books.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I loved the pulp. I loved the physical book. I still do to this day. And I have lots and lots of books in my house. All the books, hopefully all the books I've read, or at least as many of them as I've been smart enough to not lend out to people who don't give them back to me.
Right.
No, seriously. I just love books. And so that idea of all this black ink on white paper opening up my imagination to these stories was something that I always thought was just this magic as a child, as a teenager, and even to this day. So I said, boy, it would be great if the books in this story literally have a magic about them, that when you open them, they do different things. So that was the concept behind that. So when I was writing the story, writing the play, very, very first page, it says, the curtain comes up on a library filled with thousands of books. And that's the idea behind it being in that library, is that taking those books off of the wall gives us that opportunity to explore the possibilities of what reading could be in our lives.
And as a writer, as I am, the first thing I thought is, boy, wouldn't you love to just go and sit down in that room where all those books are, and the soundtrack you had playing, it's like, I want to play that when I'm trying to go to sleep at night. I mean,
yeah.
all the aesthetics were perfect there.
Thank you. Yeah, the music and the sound was all developed by a partner who I work with all the time, my friend Josh Chatura. He's a composer. He's a sound designer. He's an actor. He's an amazing, brilliant musician. And so we've done so many projects together. And I asked him if he would be the sound designer for this piece. And he's like, you can't ask me to be the sound designer and not have me do music as well. So I'm just going to do all the music as well. So he wrote all of that. The music, even in the pre-show, is just something he's like, I want to create a mood when people are coming in, a nice sort of solemn, wistful sort of mood for everybody to enter into. And so I think he accomplished that really beautifully. And boy, we get so many compliments from the perspective of the music and the sound and the general production in general. Yeah, so thank you for that.
And I want to say thank you to Rasheem, because I got to pet the cowardly lion as he was going through the audience. He stopped to let
I will tell him that.
He stopped to let me pat him on the head. And usually when you're sitting in the back, if you have children's theater, they come out and they interact with the children, but when you're sitting in the back, you don't get involved much. And so I appreciated you all including me and making me a part of the evening as well.
Oh, that's why I came back there, for the same reason. I was just like, oh my goodness. My sister uses a wheelchair, and she's often, especially in older venues, like, all right, my brother, thanks so much.
Appreciate you. It was great to meet you.
You too. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, you too, definitely. Bye.
Bye-bye.